Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Today, I wanted to go more in depth on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So here's a map, Russia, big country, Ukraine's over here. Now, this person is Alexander Dugin, and he is a political philosopher in Russia. And I just want to talk about some of his ideas. Now, he's been writing since the 1980s, during the Soviet Union, and but most of his career has been outside of the Soviet Union. Um, After the fall of the Soviet Union. So his big contribution is the fourth political theory to political philosophy. Um, it's well known. It's not widely accepted though, but let's get into that. So he talks about, it's the fourth because you have liberalism. Here's John Locke, a great classical liberal, and then you have communism, which kind of rebelled uh, from liberalism, and he classifies all forms of socialism as like the second political theory. Then you have fascism, and I want to kind of differentiate between fascism as a doctrine. Here's Giovanni Gentile, who is really intellectually, academically, he gets the credit for being one of the founders of fascism, and actually, explaining it as an ideology. Um, what Hitler did well, a lot of people think that, oh, the Nazis were the standard for all of fascism, but that's he kind of deviated from some of the standards of fascism. But if you read Gentile and see what other fascists did in other countries during the 20s and 30s, that's a bit more. Um, I'm not saying it's good or anything, but I'm just saying that was more that was more typical of fascism. Um, let's see. So yeah, Gentile, and that ended with World War II, and then we get the fourth political theory from Alexander Dugin. Now let's get into that. So I'm going to talk about each of these. Okay, so you have Eurasianism. And Eurasianism is kind of a geopolitical idea, and it's that basically the second item here is multipolarity, is that you don't have one ideology that triumphs over all. You're going and also geopolitically speaking, you're going to have different different parts of the world that are more, that have more commonality among their inhabitants than in other parts of the world. So they all just band together because they're all close to one another. And so you have Eurasia, which is Europe and Asia, and you have Russia, which is kind of the mother of Eurasia. And so strategically, it's a very important place to be. There was this theory before the fall of the Soviet Union that that Eurasia would dominate the world because you just can't invade Russia. It's just so big. The climate is inhospitable, and so whoever has the Eurasian landmass will eventually be the greatest superpower of the world. Um, but that kind of declined, and after the fall of the Soviet Union, and multipolarity became the dominant idea. So during the Cold War, you had a bipolar world. After the fall of the Soviet Union, you seemingly had a unipolar world with the U.S. On top, and multipolarity was kind of the opposition. If you didn't like the unipolar world, you argued for multipolarity, like, oh, uh, different world powers were going to tend to their own region. So you would have like a China in Asia, um, Germany or Russia in Europe, the United States in North America, or maybe the Western Hemisphere, Brazil um, in South America, maybe South Africa in Africa. So that's kind of what they were pushing. Um, and the fourth political theory is very conservative and traditional, and so the people, wherever they are, just supposed to rely on the local tradition. Um, it can be nationalistic, although elsewhere Dugin has argued for the return to uh, the politeia, the Greek kind of the traditional Greek city state. Having your community, and that leads into the community over the individual. So liberalism really promoted individual rights, and so the fourth political theory is an antithesis of, or some parts of it are an antithesis of of liberalism. So rather than exalting the individual, you exalt the community over the individual. Pan-Slavism, and of course, because he's Russian and believes in Eurasianism, so all the Slavs, because of the commonalities they have, should all join together. Or at least you would have a Russia to be kind of kind of an overlord. Maybe that's not the right term, but kind of a hegemon over the other Slavic peoples or states. He also believes the fourth political theory calls for spirituality, and that's kind of the vague term. Of course, in the Slavic sphere, it would be Russian Orthodoxy. If you're in the Middle East, of course, it would be Islam. If you're in Western Europe, it would be Protestantism, or maybe Catholicism. If you're in the Indian subcontinent, it'd be Hinduism. Okay, and then and then he also, I don't see anything that with Dugin really supporting. Maybe I didn't read it, I skipped over it, but I didn't really see where he was promoting positive liberty, but he is definitely anti-negative liberty and is really critical of the negative liberty of liberalism. So these are some of the ideas that are prevalent in Russia today, and in the fourth political theory. So so I hope this is helpful in understanding the conflict in Ukraine right now. And go ahead and like, subscribe, share, and you can promote the message of classical republicanism, which Dugin doesn't really seem to acknowledge. He is, he is mostly talking about modern political philosophy, and depending on where you begin modern political philosophy, if you start with Hobbes, then yeah, okay, liberalism, but but he seems to want to go back, with his conservatism, his tradition, and and his abhorrence of negative liberty. Maybe he should consider classical republicanism a little bit more. So, long live the Republic.